Well, this is the fastest racing circuit in Australia, and hitting it now are the fastest racing cars in Australia. The Formula 3 Australian Drivers' Championship rolling out for round 2 of their national championship for 2015. More than 90% of the lap is spent flat out here at Phillip Island. This is the grid for race 1. John Collins grabs pole position by just a few tenths away from Ricky Capo. Luke Spalding from 3, first of the national class cars, the 2007 spec Dallara in the field. Shane Riding back in the Harvest Motorsport Miguel. And the field grid's up, looking down towards Bass Strait, this Wings and Slicks wonderland. It's an amazing place for these cars. There is no faster racetrack in the land for Formula 3 cars. An average lap speed of 189 kilometres an hour. That's the average speed. And we're underway for race 1.
Good start from Collins, making the most of the pole position from this one. McDonald's Gilmore entry. The jump aboard with Shane Riding, giving you a brilliant view to head down to turn 1, this fast sweeping right-hander.
Now, the key to this racetrack, mate, is slipstreaming. You need to position yourself in the right place at the right time to get the overtake. You'll see overtaking at turn 1, and this run now out of the southern loop down towards the Honda hairpin. That is absolutely critical because you can outbrake going down there. We're on board the bestjet.com Gilmore Racing Dallara. There's an example of the slipstream. He pulls out from behind Shane Riding's car and goes side by side. He's on the outside, but if he can stay there, he'll be in the right side of the road when they get to Siberia.
Riding could almost see that coming through, that sweeper. Slots back in behind now as we work towards Siberia, known for the fact if you disappear off the back, you don't tend to come back.
No, exactly right. You stop, and we saw that shot from our drone before. Round the back of the hay shed, tight corner, but it's absolutely pinned flat in one of these cars. Opening like difficult in the Formula 3 car, Matt, as the Kumo control tyre comes up to temperature. Last year we switched to a wider front tyre in Formula 3 racing, and it has given the cars a bit more front end grip. And what that does, it means they can take a little bit of front wing out on tracks like this to help trim the car out. Imagine we're going to Indianapolis for the Indy 500. They're always reducing drag and downforce.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to do here. Trim the car out to get the most of the straight line speed because you're flat out everywhere else.
This is where it's evident on the main straight here, the Gardner Straight, which takes you down this long downhill approach. The TV camera does never do the justice of how far the track drops away down here. So it's Collins from Ricky Capo, who clean swept around at Sandown the recent past. These guys have already disappeared from the field.
Yeah, really difficult opening round for Johnny Collins too. Battled so hard to raise the funds to go motor racing this year. Did the deal with McDonald's Gilmore Racing late in the piece to get in this number 17 car. The car that Ben Jerzakowski raced last year and finished second in the championship. But he really didn't go to plan, looking to bounce back this weekend. Got it off to a right start with pole position. This is a battle for the minors. 3rd, 4th and 5th place. Shane Riding, the yellow and white Miguel M11 in front, run by Harvest Motorsport. Then it's Luke Spalding behind the Denny Rumble in the Artec Motorsport car.
Denny Rumble in his 2nd full season now, joined us on the tour last year and just getting used to this Wings and Slicks category. And I mean, it's not an easy track to get used to at the best of times, Phillip Island. And we jump back on board with Spalding now. Just gives you an idea of how quick this back section of the circuit actually is.
So that's a hay shed, 220 k's an hour. And on new tyres, this part of the road's just about flat as well over Lukey Heights. The aero effect, the downforce on these cars pushes them flat. Then as soon as you get the car straight in that braking zone for MG, you nail the middle pedal and get it stopped and turn into what is one of the slowest corners on the racetrack. From MG all the way around to turn 2, they're flat. It's 32 seconds. You hold your right foot as hard to the carbon fibre bulkhead
look at
as you can. That's the shot from our Shannon's Nationals drone looking down Gardner Straight. Amazing.
And many of the engineers and crew chiefs of these cars will actually call their driver a wuss if they're anything less than 32 seconds on full throttle from MG. Looks like the gap's closed a bit at the front here now as Capo trying to close it on the back of Collins as they head down to Honda hairpin.
Oh, well, can't help but wonder if that Gilmore Racing car is running a little bit more wing perhaps. So it got tyre temp up earlier in the motor race, Matt, but as it's gone on and the Johnny King Capo Racing entry's got its tyres up to temperature, it might be a better car in the second half of the race. And you can see he's closed that margin down behind John Collins. So we might yet have a battle on our hands between these two. It might not go the way of John Collins and the Gilmore Racing squad. Big job from Capo just to get here. Had a monster crash right about here over Lukey Heights in testing. Just one of those moments, young driver. And unfortunately, this place can bite, and it bites hard. Chelsea Angelo had one, a big crash at this place last year and got back in time for the round. So it can bite you hard, but it's so rewarding when you get it right.
So Capo still on the back of Collins here, approaching half race distance. Race won the Australian Formula 3 Championship at Phillip Island. Overcast conditions, but looks like it's not as windy out there as we've seen in the past. Look at this shot. Amazing pictures.
Running down, so you can see Capo now is in the tow because Collins is having to defend, and you can see the aero effect that's pulling the 92 car up. You can pass at turn one, but you've got to be brave and you've got to be side by side before you get into the corner. You cannot pull out like that because otherwise you'll make contact with the car in front and cause the mother of all accidents. So he did well to back out of it there, but he's just having a look, just letting Collins know that he's there. His car's up to speed and he's going to start having an attack. I
can't stress enough as he has another look down the inside. This will be a phantom look as the door slams shut. The McDonald's Gilmore entry. I can't stress enough what the approach is like down to turn one. You and I have spent many a day with our jaws hitting the ground and seen how quick these cars come through. You've got to be committed to that corner.
If you get an opportunity to watch Wings and Slicks race cars there one day in your life, do so. Go and stand in the spectator zone. You're about 2 metres from the road, and you sit there and watch the cars come over the hill into sight, and you go, brake, 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 and they don't. They keep going flat. We've got a safety car out. So, safety car on the road, and this is why. So Shane riding, Harvest McGale gets it out of turn 11 mid-corner.
And he's found the beach, one would think, or he stalled it there on the way out. Easy to do. You've got to be so patient on the throttle application out of that turn. So hopefully you get the car back out there and continue as we come back around for a restart with a couple of laps to go.
It's probably worked well for John Collins too, Matt, because he was coming under serious attack. And what that's done is just taken the heat off for a couple of laps, lets the tyres normalise, and as we saw at the start of the race, John Collins' car was really good. Capo's got a good restart though, already in the tow, but not quite close enough. So let's see how Collins goes in this opening lap after that brief safety car interruption.
Collins was very defensive, nicely through there, positioned the car, making Capo go the long way around. If he can do it, I think Capo has the stronger car here, but Collins is driving that a little bit better at the moment.
We heard before the start of the race about Ricky's experience going and testing in Europe, and I think he learnt a lot out of that. And the thing that you get from Europeans driving Formula 3 cars is how immediately they're on the pace on cold tyres. Of course, it's always freezing over there, so you've got to learn how to get tyre temp up quickly. And I think that would have been a skill that Ricky Capo picked up. All the English drivers who've had come and race in Aussie F3 over the years, Ben Clucas, James Winslow, Charlie Hollings and the like, Ben Barker, all of them have been amazing on cold tyres, and that's what win you races, and it's a skill that will see you set through your racing career.
I recall James Winslow winning a race here one day in drying conditions, but made the best out of the cold tyre starts here. I think that was about 2008, if memory serves me right.
Yeah, 07-08, he had an amazing run here, and he and Leanne Tander were the two best drivers I've ever seen at this place in a Formula 3 car. Both of them suited it, smooth, silky driving style, which you need here. So back out onto Gardner Straight, and proving what we saw in the opening lap, that John Collins' car comes on very quickly. So it's good early in the run, but as the race goes on, as the laps wear on, Capo's car, I think, is better. So it's going to be interesting when we get down to the final few laps of this opening race.
But just look at the margin they've got already on that restart. That's nearly 3 seconds on the opening lap.
And that's confidence on cold tyres. That is solely down to that, I think, that Luke Spalding in just his second ever Formula 3 race meeting, just coming up to grips. And he's raced Formula V, a lot of state level stuff. It's a big step up to drive one of these cars. Learning quickly. I thought he was really impressive at Sandown. Came to grips with it really well. And that will continue over the course of the season. The more miles he gets, the closer he'll get to these two. Got a pretty good benchmark in John Collins. He's a guy with a lot of miles in these cars. He's got access to all of John's data. He'll be able to use that to get himself up to speed. I think he'll get there by the end of the year.
Yeah, I tend to agree. They sweep around the back of what used to be the old hay shed to the right of you there, and that's the back. The gap now stretched out even further. You're looking at maybe 5 seconds back to our third place guy of Luke Spalding. Denny Rumble having a good run also out there in car number 6, the next of the Artec Motorsport entries.
So watch for Capo now. Gets a pretty good run out of MG, and he's just starting to get back in that zone where you get into the dirty air of the car in front and it starts drawing you closer. It's that slipstream effect we talk about. And this track, more than any other in Australia, is where the slipstream is absolutely critical. Not quite close enough to have a run yet, but he'll just draw himself close, and if he can get a good run through turn 1, through the southern loop, he'll be in the right position.
I think Honda Hairpin might be his best chance in this one as we're on the final lap now, the southern loop section of the circuit. You get a wind direction change when you come back out of this read. You go from a tailwind to a headwind heading down to Honda Hairpin as we're on board with Capo.
And at 540 kilos, it really affects these cars, Matt, the way they move around in the aero and in the breeze. Here's Capo. Will he send one? Oh, he does send one from a long way back. And Collins leaves the door open. Good racing room given. John will be on the right side of the road, the left, in fact, for Siberia, but it is the right side to be on because you're on the racing line. Capo holds on around the outside. Great exchange. Collins holds on.
Picked that nicely.
That was good. Good racing. What about Capo around the back of the hay shed? 220 Ks flat out through here. Collins positioning his car nicely. Exactly where he needs to be. And what about MG? Here goes Capo.
Oh.
Gets it down the inside. There's a little bit of contact perhaps. And this will set him up for a great drive out of the final corner. And the run to the line, he's got to time it well. He needs to time it really well, but he'll be in the tow. It's the run to the line at Australia's fastest racetrack. The fastest racing cars haven't disappointed either. Capo's going to get him. No, Collins holds on. Good motor race.
Amazing last lap, wasn't it? 2 or 3 big bites of the cherry from Capo. That's the margin back to 3rd and 4th. Well done to Luke Spalding, in particular to Denny Rumble, getting into 4th position. But those two out in front, John Collins and Ricky Capo, the stars of race 1.
Yeah, it was a pretty fantastic race. A little too close for comfort with Ricky there, and that last lap was one epic battle. He did well to push me and went for every little gap that he could, but thankfully we managed to stay cool, calm and collected, and take that race win.
They might be the fastest racing cars in Australia. They look pretty good in super slow-mo as well. As we take a look at highlights from races 2 and 3 now, Shane Riding stalled on the grid. John Collins got a great start and lead them down into turn 1. First and second from race 1 start from 3rd and 4th in race 2. They swapped the top 4 around.
It didn't take long for the second row to move back into their prime positions. We saw this battle between Denny Rumble and the 23 of Luke Spalding. Back at the front, though, these two engaged in a thrilling battle once again.
It was on again, side by side at 250 clicks through turn 1. It was awesome stuff. And Capo was pretty determined to wrangle the lead away from John Collins. He couldn't do it in race 1. Watch this, though. He could in race 2. Just enough room on the inside at Honda to wrestle the lead away from Collins. Great move. But that wasn't the end of it.
Yeah, massive amount of respect between these two. Collins gave him just enough racing room at Honda Hairpin, and then it continued on the run down to the hay shed.
Yeah, and in the end, it took John Collins getting a good run out of MG, towed up behind the 92 car in the start of the final lap, and swept round the outside to retake the lead. Really good exchange between these two in the final 2 laps of the motor race. In the end, Collins got home and took it 2 from 2 with Ricky Capo in 2nd place, Spalding in 3rd. This is race 3, the feature race. Good start from Capo, but the second phase of the start was all John Collins, and he got himself back into the lead.
And Collins would have the optimum line running down to turn 1 on lap 1 later in the day here at Phillip Island. So we see Riding go around the turn 1 section, but it was Collins out in front, and the guys at 3rd, 4th and 5th picked up their battles from race 1.
Yeah, and the story will be different in this race. This is Trent Shervington in the white Megale sweeping around the outside of Denny Rumble. Shervington had a really tough weekend, but got it all together in the 3rd and final race and made hay literally while the sun shone here at Phillip Island. Capo just couldn't quite get close enough to get into the tow. This was an exciting exchange. A couple of Megales down at turn 4, and
so easy to do.
just a harmless spin on the outside. Coldish rubber and a loop for Shane Riding. Checkered flag, 3 from 3, and his first feature race win in Formula 3 went to John Collins. A great weekend for the New South Welshman, and it got him to within 10 points of Ricky Capo in the battle for the Australian Formula 3 Championship. Shervington 3rd, Riding 4th, and Luke Spalding leads the way in the Formula 3 national class.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to be on the podium for the outright and also take the national, so a pretty good result for us this weekend. We did a test day on Thursday, try and get adjusted to the aero, which helped a lot, and it just pushed hard, and that's what we did, and it was awesome to get best yet the 2 trophies.